I'm Jo Wilmot, PR Director at Think Tank, and I'm joined by Rowlatt, our Digital Media Director. Thank you so much for the amazing talks from Censuswide and from Gerald. What we've heard today, we're probably going to reinforce a lot of those topics. We've just heard about how people are using AI tools out in the wild and how important proprietary research data is. And to reiterate what Gerald just said, whilst it's getting complicated, please don't panic. What we'll be doing over the next 20 minutes is show you what all this means and what you can be doing for your brands. We'll be outlining some new approaches to planning. We'll share some best practices and all about ensuring that your brand is accurately represented in AI tools. How AI systems are accurately answering your queries about your brand while remaining true to your brands and audiences. And
So there's been a fundamental shift in the way people are searching for products and services. In fact, as Gerald noted, search clicks are down 47%, but search itself has increased. So here we can see traditional search. Let's talk about why this matters. So on the left, you see a traditional set of search results. You'll get a list of blue links. And on the right, it's an AI synthesized answer. And this is picking out specific brand recommendations. It isn't a future trend. With over 900 million users on ChatGPT alone and over half of all searches incorporating AI, your customers are already using these tools to make decisions about you. So let's have a look what goes into these AI answers. Again, on the left, this is classic search. We all know it. We've all relied upon it for the last 20 years. It's a journey of retrieval. A user searches, clicks a link, and then visits a site. It's based largely on keywords and links. The new reality is different. A user enters a prompt and the AI synthesizes information from dozens of sources to deliver a direct response. The decision happens before the click. The job now is not to rank, but to be so clear and authoritative that your brand becomes the answer. It's a shift from retrieval to synthesis.
On screen, you can see stats which are showing that AI is already having an impact. Buyers are using AI to help them choose which companies to shortlist. Once they've shortlisted, they've more bought in. Almost all B2B buyers are using LLMs at least once in their purchasing journey. AI search conversions are more valuable, as we've heard from Gerald. And those brands with really, really good press profiles are being increasingly surfaced in AI. And of those B2B buyers or of those B2B marketers who have done the search, so 8 in 10 B2B marketing bosses are saying that they know that their LLM visibility is a gap. And of those, of the few B2B marketing bosses who have done a search, they are finding that what is being surfaced is often inaccurate. That is because the information that the LLMs is using to surface the answers is wrong. It's picking up on an inconsistent signals.
So we've got a visibility challenge. 26% of brands measured in a recent study currently have 0 mentions in AI responses. And visibility, as we know, can be volatile depending on the LLMs and their different licensing deals. So where does AI get its information from? The simple answer, everywhere. This diagram shows AI as a reputation engine. So it's constantly pulling signals from across the digital world. So from your owned media, like your website. Also very importantly, your earned media. industry databases, trade body sites, social media, crowdsourced platforms, training data, everywhere. And all these signals, if they're positive, negative, or neutral, are synthesized to generate a response. Your brand's reputation is now, get my teeth in, an algorithmic summary of your entire digital footprint. So you need a strategy to manage these signals. It's essential. So let's talk about your current visibility. Recent study by Ahrefs and Superlines, they measured a cohort of brands. 26% of them have 0 mentions. So, as we talked about, volatility, it's volatile. So let's make it real. Let's talk about the think tank. So, this is something I'll check all the time. What I think my prospects are typing into the LLMs to find the think tank. These days, they're not getting 10 blue links that I've been working towards for the last 10 years. No, they're getting a curated shortlist and a recommendation. If your brand isn't in that response, you don't exist in that moment of decision making. So I'd encourage all of you, whatever sector you're in, have a look, see what comes up and how you're described. And then ask yourself, well, if my brand is there, does it look like I want it to? So there are a few tools to help you when developing your prompt library. So when a prospect types a prompt, as I mentioned, the AI casts a wide net and it draws on all those signals. So to understand the landscape, you can build a prompt library. So some free tools out there to help you build that prompt library. You all know Google Search Console. This will give you the queries that people already use to find you. Social listening, looking on LinkedIn and Reddit, and also, most importantly, talk to your sales team because they'll reveal the natural language that your prospects and customers are using. And then new tools like query fan-out tools, LLM Rex. This will take one of the prompts that you know your customers are using and then give you dozens of variations that you can go and test. So the most critical shift, strategic shift here is that we're no longer controlling the narrative. We're moving to managing the signal environment. So as I mentioned, the signals are anything, any information about your business. So think about your pricing, customer service, employee reviews, media coverage, your website. And most importantly, the LLMs don't distinguish from what's come from marketing and what's come from customer service. It just sees the facts and it looks for patterns. If your website claims that you're really customer centric, but your reviews are terrible, AI and your customers will spot that contradiction. So our role as marketers has changed. It's now about ensuring consistency across the entire signal environment.
So where does that leave us for our planning? Most of us, I'm sure, are very, very familiar with the concept of paid, earned, shared and owned. Increasingly, we are finding, however, that we're cramming activity into different buckets. Is a LinkedIn article from a subject matter expert, is that owned or shared? Influencer activity, is that shared or paid? Obviously, clear cases could be made for mixed categories, but it's really muddy. What we're finding is those traditional approaches aren't sufficient in a world where AI is synthesizing information. That's why we've moved to using the digital media arena. It's got 14 different categories rather than the 4 that we're probably quite familiar with. It's devised by Finnish and British academics, and it really responds to the realities of today's digital world. Don't worry, our old friends, paid, owned, shared and earned, are still there. However, there's now 10 other categories. For example, there are things like hijack media, crowdsourced platforms, for example, Reddit, Blastdoor, where very, very human conversations are going to be happening beyond your control. Although that does not mean you should do nothing on those. There's also artificial media, which can be subject to hallucination, but there's a very, very simple principle here. Control what's controllable, influence what's possible, and monitor the rest. And important, as Ross has just said, AI is synthesizing information from across the signal environment, so you need consistent, accurate information.
So let's start your journey. What do we need to do? So, to systematically listen to AI, you need a GEO, Generative Engine Optimization, we call it GEO, audit for best practice to get started. So this is a structured 3-step process that establishes your current visibility. So first of all, the testing stage. We need to methodically track 50 to 100 prompts that your customers are asking multiple LLMs for a period of at least 4 weeks to set the baseline. Second, discovery. Need to find the gaps. Where do your competitors show up but you don't? Where is information inaccurate? And which domains are citing you? And interestingly, what new sources are being cited? And then finally, the delivery, the output report. This will give you your visibility score, your share of voice, and a prioritized list of gaps, and then pointers for your technical and content updates. So once you've got that audit, it's going to show up where your gaps, but the first place to start is obviously your website. We've provided a longer checklist today, at the end of today, and that will cover all of those technical fundamentals. And I've condensed here for brevity. And if you're aware of SEO principles, it's an extension of that. So first of all, let's make it accessible. We need to make sure that your digital front door is open for AI crawlers to get in. Secondly, make it fast. It's not change from SEO days. Slow pages get skipped. Thirdly, making it understandable. So we've all heard of schema. Use tools like schema markup to add descriptive labels to your content. Is it an article? Is it an organizational page? Make it discoverable. Logical internal linking structure helps AI understand the context. And then finally, keeping it healthy, monitoring and updates. Any site technical errors are red flags to the LLMs.
Okay, so we've just heard about the architecture. Let's talk about the decoration here. There's some very specific things that you can do in terms of content. These are not revolutionary. And if you've got good SEO practice, these should be things that you're very, very comfortable with. However, it's probably good to understand how the AIs are looking for things. First off, use explicit entity referencing. That sounds incredibly pretentious, but it's a very simple concept. It means making it very, very clear about who you're writing about and making sure you're explaining the company, not assuming that the AIs or people reading it understand who you're talking about. Making sure you're explaining whose people's jobs are, what they do. So be really, really clear. And then related to this, write journalistically. AI models are trained on news sources. That means they prioritize that style of writing. Use specific language, use data points, don't use marketing fluff. It's really, really important to be clear and accurate, and that data is incredibly important. Summarize information, so have what we would call a stand first at the top of the article. That's really, really helpful, not just for human readers, but also it tees up the bot what's coming next. Then FAQ sections. Either these can be answer hub areas, or you've probably seen increasingly mini question and answers underneath website content. That's because AI users and AI's it's question and answer pairing. So that's helping out the bot again, and it's symbolizing credibility and authority. And then finally, really, really stack up your content. Have that explanatory content ready. If you are an expert in an area, make sure there's detailed series of topics explaining that on your website. And then the final thing is make sure it's ready for humans, because if it's not good for humans, it's not going to work for bots after. And then I know that there's been quite a lot of panic around what you can do to game the algorithm. Don't rush to do things that are grubby, in the same way that that sort of white text SEO practice was really, really bad. Rushing to game the algorithm for this will not help. It could damage your SEO, which will damage your AO visibility. We've heard a lot about content. That's really, really important. But talking about PR and media in a world of AI discovery where third-party endorsement is everything, PR is probably more important than ever. AI systems prioritize credible publications with high domain authority, as well as trade media. This is really, really important. Breadth and repetition of coverage across various sources is more important than a single high impact piece of coverage. This means you need to consistently address those key topics across multiple quality publications to build a strong press profile, i.e. have a PR campaign, and build a pattern of coverage across the media landscape. As we've heard from Lucy and Robin, share proprietary data and insights. AI systems really, really favour credible, owned, original research and data-driven content. If you're the source of the data, you're much more likely to be cited.
So, platform matters. Platform strategy really matters. So let's look at building authority for AI. And this isn't, as Joe just mentioned, about one or two big media hits. It's about that consistent breadth and repetition. We call it the 360 mix. So the 360 mix means being visible across 5 key areas. So corporate, your own website, your owned media. Editorial, this is your third-party validation from the press. And as Joe noted, your most cited signal in AI. UGC and social, LinkedIn, Reddit, hugely important for B2B. Reference and institutional sites like G2, Wikipedia, Crunchbase, trade body websites are all good trust signals. So being visible and consistent across all these categories builds a robust and trustworthy reputation. And on top of all that, fresh content matters too. 65% of all current AI cited pages are less than a year old.
Okay, digital media impact isn't just about reach and engagement. It is also potentially about brand jacking, misinformation and pylons, and AI is a multiplier of that. That's why we need to audit, reflect, act and iterate deliberately, not just publish faster. AI can offer us massive, massive opportunities, but there are also some potential risks. It amplifies attention and also potential to speed of crises, surfaces patterns and can hallucinate. Makes things easier, automates work, but also it means much stronger human governance. People can find you, but they find you much more easily, but also they might find out that one thing that you just don't want to know. So it just means we have to be much, much better and much more robust with our risk planning. The other thing that we've really, really focused on this morning on the AI world, digital world, but let's not forget that our customers are also in the real world. So, let's not forget about that.
So to prove it's working, you've got to measure what matters. So AI visibility is a new metric in its own right. So getting a dashboard together to track your brand's presence in AI responses over time, and key metrics that we recommend largely are sentiment. So how is your brand being described? So remember here, neutral is not a safe place. It means that there aren't enough positive signals out there about you. Also, rankings. So you've got your library of prompts. You want to see how you're ranking against your competitors for your key prompts, because this is also going to give you your share of voice in LLMs. And the domains mentioned before, this will tell you which sources are being cited. It's an old saying, but what gets measured gets managed. So tracking your AI visibility will help identify what's working and where to focus next. And so the rule of thumb is that brands with visibility visibility scores above 80% see 60% better AI representation, and monitoring sentiment and citations isn't optional because AI visibility can shift dramatically within weeks. So, thinking about pulling it all together and starting a journey. So implementing a proactive GEO strategy is a continuous cycle. It's not a one-off project. And as we discussed, it starts with the audit. You need to find your baseline and identify the gaps. That audit then informs your overarching GEO strategy. Based on the gaps, this breaks down into integrated work streams. They're common to all of us, but strategies for your owned content, your PR, your earned media, things like expert profiling, and your technical implementation. As I mentioned, it's a loop. So after your first activation, go back, audit, measure the progress, and refine the strategy. So we've got to think of AI not as a new separate thing, but as a strategic lens for your entire marketing and communications plan.
So, in summary, despite all the changes, there's some core communication principles that are as relevant now as ever in the AI era. Visibility. Ensure you're consistent and present across all the platforms and publications that AI systems crawl. There is a bit of movement here as the licensing agreements with the LLMs change. Consistency. Align all your signals. Your website, your press coverage, your social media all need to be telling the same story. Is your CEO, however, telling one story on earnings calls, and then perhaps your hiring pages on LinkedIn are telling another? AI systems will spot that. We as communicators need to make sure that our other parts of our organization are not leaking past things that we don't want. Relationships. Investing in positive relationships with stakeholders has always been a very, very good idea. However, in the AI era, these relationships will be generating signals that AI can synthesize from. So make sure your advocates, your employees, your journalists, all those people you need to have strong relationships with. Then credibility, making sure that you're leveraging what you're truly expert at, making sure you're leveraging your subject matter experts. These things are all really, really important. These things haven't changed. They're all things that we should have been doing. But as we've heard from Giles, we need to move quickly to make sure that we're seizing the advantage that AI systems can give us. And the good thing is we've all spent our careers building the skills that are needed. So thank you.